In my first two videos covering the theme of love in Twelfth Night, we looked at the main plot featuring the love triangle between Orsino, who loves Olivia, who loves Cesario/Viola, who loves Orsino, and the way that this is reflected in one of the comedic subplots, featuring the love triangle between Sir Andrew, Olivia and Cesario, dreamed up by Fabian and Sir Toby in an attempt to prevent Sir Andrew from leaving Olivia's household. We also took a quick look at the development of the romantic relationship between Sir Toby and Maria, as well as the platonic love shown between Antonio and Sebastian. Sir Toby's tricking of Sir Andrew that the only way he can hope to get Olivia to sit up and take notice of him by challenging the hapless Cesario to a duel is, of course, not the only practical joke in the play to exploit a love that has its foundations in delusion. We first meet Malvolio in Act 1, Scene 5, as he watches on disapprovingly while Feste makes fun of Olivia, calling her stupid for mourning her brother's death. Clearly amused by Feste's impertinence, Olivia asks Malvolio if he agrees that Feste is just getting funnier and funnier all the time. Malvolio, however, makes his contempt for Feste's quick wit clear, sarcastically agreeing that he'll go on getting funnier and funnier until he dies, as old age always makes people, even those who are wise, act peculiarly. So you can imagine what it does to someone who is already a fool. Note that Malvolio uses the term synonymously with idiot. Yes, and shall do, till the pangs of death shake him. Infirmity that decays the wise doth ever make the better fool. Malvolio, however, is no match for Feste, who, rather than suffering this as the put-down it was intended to be, uses it to take a further swipe at him, as he acknowledges that, while Sir Toby will quite freely swear that Feste is not clever, he can't even be bribed to say that Malvolio is not an idiot. Sir Toby will be sworn that I am no fox, but he will not pass his word for twopence that you are no fool. Ha, says Olivia, clearly enjoying this exchange. How do you answer that, Malvolio? Malvolio, obviously very thin-skinned, is stung by Feste's jibe, sourly commenting that he is surprised that Olivia takes pleasure from such a stupid troublemaker. I marvel your ladyship takes delight in such a barren rascal, and arguing that he saw him bested the other day by an ordinary fool that has no more brain than a stone. Rather than agree with Malvolio, Olivia counters this by gently reprimanding him for taking himself too seriously, as this causes him to perceive the world in a warped manner. She says that he is sick of or with self-love, and, as such, tastes with a distempered appetite. To be generous, guiltless, and of a free disposition is to take those things for bird bolts that you deem cannon bullets. There is no slander in an allowed fool, though he do nothing but rail, nor no railing in a known discreet man, though he do nothing but reprove. When one is good-natured, she argues, the jokes of a fool are as harmless as the blunt arrows used for the shooting of birds, and not as fatal as the cannonballs that his ill nature is making them out to be. And in fact, professional fools are allowed to say whatever they like, even if all they do is scold and abuse, while other men, if they are wise, will keep their scolding and abuse to themselves. As we can see from Olivia's words, the fool or jester had a privileged position in the homes of the wealthy. Employed to make them laugh, they were permitted to say things as they saw them in a no-holds-barred manner in an environment where others could end up with their heads quite literally on the chopping block for saying something similar. Malvolio, it appears then, is a bit of a sourpuss. Note how Shakespeare explicitly draws our attention to this with his choice of name for the character, with mal coming from the Italian male, meaning ill, and volio from the Italian voglia, meaning will. Put them together and we have a character who displays an ill will towards his fellow man. It can come as no surprise, then, that he is extremely disapproving of the drunken party in which Sir Toby, Sir Andrew and Feste are engaged in Act 2, Scene 3, bursting in on their merrymaking and reprimanding them for their raucous behaviour, his outrage evident from his stream of rhetorical questions. "My masters, are you mad? Or what are you? Have you no wit, manners, nor honesty, but to gabble like tinkers at this time of night? Do you make an alehouse of my lady's house, that ye squeak out your cosiest catches without any mitigation or remorse of voice? Is there no respect of place, persons, nor time in you?" The men take no notice of his telling them off. Sir Toby tells him to sneck up, or shut up, and they enrage him further by poking fun at him. He is now no longer content with merely getting them to stop, but is determined to get them all into trouble and thrown out of the house. He threatens to grass them up to Olivia, and includes Maria for allowing them to do it in the first place. "Mistress Mary, if you prized my lady's favour at anything more than contempt, you would not give means for this uncivil rule. She shall know of it by this hand." It's now Maria's turn to be outraged, and after Malvolio has self-righteously stalked off, she outlines her plan for them all to get their revenge on him, which will exploit his self-love that Olivia has already identified. She observes that sometimes he is a kind of Puritan, a very narrow-minded Jobsworth who lives for the rules he learns by heart and imposes on others. His sense of moral superiority is such that he has an over-inflated idea of his own worth, mistakenly believing that everyone loves him, and it is this weakness that she will use against him. An affectioned ass that cons state without book, and utters it by great swaths, the best persuaded of himself, so crammed, as he thinks, with excellencies, that it is his grounds of faith that all that look on him love him. And on that vice in him will my revenge find notable cause to work. And so the idea for the letter is born. Maria, whose handwriting is almost identical to Olivia's, shall write some obscure epistles of love, an ambiguously worded love letter, containing descriptions of a man matching Malvolio, so that he will believe it is intended for him. The first phase of the joke is played out in Act 2, Scene 5, as Sir Toby, Sir Andrew and Fabian lie in wait for Malvolio, while Maria drops the letter in his path. Even before he spots it, we can see that Maria is a very keen observer of human nature, and that she has judged his weakness correctly. His self-love, or his over-inflated sense of his own personal qualities and attractiveness, sends him off on a flight of fancy, as his perception that Olivia treats him differently to the other servants seems to be proof that she is interested in him romantically. Maria once told me she did affect me, and I have heard herself come thus near, that should she fancy it should be one of my complexion. Besides, she uses me with a more exalted respect than anyone else that follows her. Remember that right at the beginning of the play, Orsino remarks, "So full of shapes is fancy, that it alone is high fantastical." In other words, there is nothing more imaginative than love, and Malvolio's self-love is a case in point. It's now not that far of a stretch for him to imagine himself married to Olivia, although observe how this is evidence of his ambition, as he is focused entirely on what it would mean for his own position, rather than any romantic feelings that he may have for Olivia herself, as he proclaims, "To be Count Malvolio." Fabian even remarks, "Now he's deeply in. Look how imagination blows him, or puffs him up." At the time, ambition didn't have the positive connotations of aspiration and drive to succeed that it does now. It was, in fact, a dirty word at the time Shakespeare was writing. Social hierarchies were very rigid. It was believed that everyone's position in life was ordained by God, and you were expected to remain in the position into which you had been born. And so social climbing, resulting from marriages between people of different classes, were not commonplace. Remember how Olivia is most keen to know what Cesario's parentage is and to ascertain that he is a gentleman before she pursues him seriously, as it would have been impossible for someone of her position to marry a mere messenger, and that Maria's own marriage to Sir Toby is not as a result of her own ambition, but is rather a token of Sir Toby's appreciation of this very joke we're talking about now. Note also how Shakespeare is careful to make Sir Toby quite rough and ready, so that their difference in status is not so marked. He is a man whose natural habitat is more the downstairs of the kitchen than the upstairs of the drawing room, always speaking in prose, even when those around him are speaking in blank verse. He may be Olivia's uncle, a term used loosely at the time for an older male relation, but he is clearly not Olivia's equal. Malvolio's aspirations to social climb into the noble class from the servant class, then, would have been unthinkable, and this is reflected in Sir Toby's barely suppressed outbursts from his hiding place. Here's an overweening rogue. The adjective overweening means excessively confident and proud, and is often used in conjunction with the word ambition, which gives us an indication that it has not always been seen as something noble. Malvolio, believing himself to be alone, gives his imagination full rein. He pictures himself, having been 3 months married to her, sitting in my chair of state, calling my officers about me in my branched or embroidered velvet gown, having come from a daybed where I have left Olivia sleeping. Note how Olivia is now conspicuously absent in this scenario. Not only does he imagine how his status will be reflected in his outward appearance, as his steward's chain of office will be replaced by some rich jewel, but he also fantasises about the day he will be able to summon Sir Toby to him and impose his own puritanical views on how the household should be run, and how Sir Toby in particular must behave. I extend my hand to him thus, quenching my familiar smile with an austere regard of control, saying, "Cousin Toby, my fortunes having cast me on your niece give me this prerogative of speech, or the right to speak to you in this manner. You must amend your drunkenness. Besides, you waste the treasure of your time with a foolish knight." Shakespeare uses the first part of this scene to prime Malvolio for his discovery of the letter. It's important for the audience to see not only just how accurate Maria has been about his character, but also that Malvolio is in a sufficiently receptive state that his falling for the trick, hook, line and sinker, is plausible. The dramatic irony whereby Malvolio is blissfully unaware of the men hiding in the shrubbery who are listening to everything he says adds to the comedy and makes the audience complicit in the joke. The ridiculousness of his aspirations and his small-minded desire to abuse his position to get revenge on the others makes the audience lose any sympathy that they may have for him. Note the way Shakespeare has even more fun with Malvolio here, by ironically having the most straight-laced character in the play make its smuttiest and crudest joke by far, which would have had the contemporary audience, especially the groundlings, rolling in the aisles. "By my life, this is my lady's hand. These be her very C's, her U's, and her T's, and thus makes she her great P's." Shakespeare uses Sir Andrew's confusion at the way the letters Malvolio mentions don't correlate exactly with the words he goes on to read off the envelope to draw attention to the joke. Her C's, her U's, her T's? Why that? In fact, what the unwitting Malvolio is doing is spelling out a contemporary slang word for female genitalia, which is very similar to a taboo word which is still used now. And the pun on peas and peas or urinates is unmistakable when we hear the word spoken. Malvolio would be mortified if he realised what indelicate things he is saying about his mistress. Captivated by his fantasies, the letter works on him like a charm, as he manipulates its ambiguous language to fit his own situation and ambitions, as Maria knew he would. I may command where I adore. Why, she may command me. I serve her, she is my lady. Why, this is evident to any formal capacity. There is no obstruction in this. And the end, what should that alphabetical position portend? If I could make that resemble something in me. Softly. M-O-A-I. M. Malvolio. M. Why, that begins my name. M. But then there is no consonancy in the sequel. That suffers under probation. A should follow, but O does. The fact that the letters aren't in the right order, however, does little to deter him, as, to crush this a little it would bow to me, for every one of these letters is in my name. Note how the wording of Maria's letter explicitly refers to ambition, reassuring Malvolio that she, i.e. Olivia, will reward him for daring to grasp the opportunity that she is offering him to better his position with both hands. If this falls into your hand, revolve. In my stars I am above thee, but be not afraid of greatness. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon 'em. The fates open their hands, let thy blood and spirit embrace them. There then follows the list of all the ridiculous behaviours that he needs to adopt to prove to her that he is ready for the good fortune that she is desperate to bestow upon him. His last words as he exits shows the extent to which his delusions of grandeur have allowed him to fall for the trick. Jove, I thank thee. I will smile, I will do everything that thou wilt have me. When we next meet Malvolio in Act 3, Scene 4, he enacts all of Olivia's commands to the letter, with predictably hilarious results. Olivia has just got herself all worked up over a potential meeting with Cesario and has sent for Malvolio, whose sober and serious manner is just the thing she needs in her current state. Where's Malvolio? He is sad and civil and suits well for a servant with my fortunes. Imagine her shock then, when Malvolio appears, dressed ridiculously in bright yellow stockings, grinning inanely and making sexual innuendos. When, concerned for his health, she asks him if he'd like to go to bed, he mistakes her concern for a sexual invitation, responding with a line from a popular song, "To bed? Aye, sweetheart, and I'll come to thee." Not only this, but he is also rude to Maria, declaring that he has nothing to answer as far as she is concerned, as he is far superior to her. Yes, nightingales answer doors. In other words, it is as appropriate for him to respond to her as it is for the sweetly singing, delicate nightingale to answer the coarsely croaking door or jackdaw. When she challenges him for this boldness in his manner, inappropriate for someone of the servant class, he merely quotes the letter back at her. Note how Olivia's interjections here reveal the utter absurdity of his ambitions. Be not afraid of greatness, 'twas well writ. What meanest thou by that, Malvolio? Some are born great. Huh? Some achieve greatness. What sayest thou? And some have greatness thrust upon them. Heaven restore thee. It doesn't take much for a distracted Olivia to believe that he has been overtaken by a fit of madness and to leave him in the capable hands of Maria and Sir Toby, which then gives them license to pursue the next part of their plan, to take him down a peg or two. Good Maria, let this fellow be looked to. Where's my cousin Toby? Let some of my people have a special care of him. I would not have him miscarry, or come to harm, for the half of my dowry. Left momentarily alone, Malvolio revels in the success of their encounter, congratulating himself on his performance and interpreting Olivia's commands as proof that his dreams are about to be fulfilled. I have limed her, but it is Jove's doing, and Jove make me thankful. And when she went away now, let this fellow be looked to. Fellow? Not Malvolio, nor after my degree, but fellow. He likens this success to having caught her, like a hunter traps a bird on the branch of a tree with sticky bird lime, and he persuades himself that her reference to him as a fellow, rather than to his degree or rank, is an indication that she sees him not as her servant, but as her equal. He is utterly convinced that nothing can come between me and the full prospect of my hopes. Left alone with him, Maria, Sir Toby and Fabian continue to build the narrative that Malvolio has been possessed by the devil in order to outrage him further, until he stalks off in high dudgeon, snootily telling them that he doesn't have to have anything to do with them, because he is superior to them, and that he knows something they don't. Go hang yourselves all. You are idle, shallow things. I am not of your element. You shall know more hereafter. When he is gone, they all revel in the success of the joke, although Maria is concerned that, left to his own devices, Malvolio will let the cat out of the bag and so spoil the joke. Nay, pursue him now, lest the device take air and taint. Sir Toby quickly comes up with the idea to have him in a dark room and bound or tied up, which was the standard treatment for someone considered to be insane. He justifies this by saying, "My niece is already in the belief that he's mad. We may carry it thus for our pleasure and his penance, till our very pastime, tired out of breath, prompt us to have mercy on him." In other words, they will be able to have fun while making him sorry for his behaviour until such time that they relent because they've had enough. When we next meet Malvolio, Sir Toby has been as good as his word and has imprisoned him in a darkened room. He has also dressed Feste up as a priest, Sir Topaz, who insists to a bewildered Malvolio that the room is full of light, rather than the pitch black that both we and Malvolio know it to be. While it is somewhat satisfying to see that Malvolio changes his tune when he believes Feste is outside of his door, now trying to ingratiate himself to him by repeatedly addressing him as a good fool, we do start to wonder if this gaslighting of him has not gone just a little bit too far. Malvolio makes his final appearance in Act 5, Scene 1, when all of the loose ends are being tied up. He's given the opportunity to explain himself and to voice his hurt and anger over the way he feels he has been mistreated by Olivia, when he was only doing what she had told him to do, and which has made him into the biggest fool to have ever had a trick played on them. "And tell me, in the modesty of honour, why you have given me such clear lights of favour, bade me come smiling and cross-gartered to you, to put on yellow stockings and to frown upon Sir Toby and the lighter people. And acting in this obedient hope, why have you suffered me to be imprisoned, kept in a dark house, visited by the priest, and made the most notorious geck and gull that e'er invention played on?" When the joke has been explained, however, with Fabian insisting that it was only to get their own back on Malvolio for some stubborn and uncourteous parts we had conceived against him, or for the way they felt he had behaved harshly and rudely towards them, it does not unfortunately make Malvolio see the error of his ways. The fact that they have wounded his pride and turned him into a victim only makes him more self-righteous and vindictive. His self-love just as intact now as it was at the beginning. His final pronouncement that he will be revenged on the whole pack of you before storming off is the only sour note in a play that otherwise celebrates the joyous and ridiculous nature of falling in love. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on English language topics and exam techniques and English literature texts.